These are 11 classic Hollywood films whose productions were plagued by accidents, tragedies, and strange coincidences that left cast and crew convinced they were genuinely cursed. Nuclear fallout, mysterious on-set fires, lightning strikes, and unexplained illnesses all share something darker than any script could contain. The sheer number of documented incidents surrounding these productions makes dismissing them as coincidence a hard sell. And whether you believe in curses or not, the stories that unfolded both on set and in the years that followed are genuinely unsettling. What you're about to hear involves some of cinema's most troubled productions and the real-life horrors that accompanied them. Generations have loved this film since childhood, but behind the Technicolor magic of Oz lay a production that was anything but wonderful for the people making it. Margaret Hamilton gave us the iconic Wicked Witch of the West. And on December 23, 1938, she suffered one of the most horrific on-set accidents in Hollywood history during her fiery exit from Munchkinland. The trapdoor's timing malfunctioned, which meant the flames activated before Hamilton had descended below the stage. Second-degree burns covered her face while third-degree burns ravaged her hands, and here's where it gets worse. Her copper-based green makeup was toxic, so doctors had to clean her fresh wounds with acetone to keep the poison from entering her bloodstream. 6 weeks of recovery followed before Hamilton returned to set, and when she did, her terms were non-negotiable. "I won't sue because I know how this business works, and I would never work again," she told the studio. "I will return to work on one condition: no more fireworks." The studio's solution was simply hiring a stunt double named Betty Danko. During the surrender Dorothy skywriting sequence, Danko sat on a smoking pipe designed to look like a broomstick, and on the third take, the pipe exploded beneath her. 11 days in the hospital followed, leaving her legs permanently scarred. Troubles kept piling up across the production. Buddy Ebsen, originally cast as the Tin Man, ended up hospitalized and placed on oxygen after only 9 days because the aluminum powder makeup triggered a severe reaction. Jack Haley replaced him but developed a serious eye infection from the modified formula. Burt Lahr spent his scenes wearing a real 90-pound lion hide with no ventilation under lights that pushed temperatures above 100 degrees. And that fake snow blanketing the poppy field? Asbestos. Few films carry the weight of tragedy quite like this one, and what makes it haunting is that all 3 young leads would meet untimely ends before reaching 45. September 30th, 1955 changed everything when James Dean lost his life in a high-speed car crash near Cholum, California, while driving his Porsche 550 Spider to a road race. 24 years old, and less than 1 month before the film's premiere, the star was gone. October 27th brought audiences to theaters already mourning the actor they came to see. Sal Mineo earned an Oscar nomination for his role as Plato, and in a 1972 interview, he confirmed that his character was intended to be understood as gay and attracted to Dean's character, making him a groundbreaking figure in cinema history. That career came to a tragic end on February 12, 1976, when Mineo was attacked outside his West Hollywood apartment at just 37 while returning from a rehearsal. Natalie Wood played Judy, and her story ended near Santa Catalina Island on November 29, 1981. When she drowned while boating with her husband Robert Wagner and Christopher Walken. 43 years old, and the circumstances remain disputed since investigators named Wagner a person of interest in 2018, though no charges have followed. Nick Adams, who played the smaller role of Chick, was found in his home in 1968 at 36 under circumstances never fully explained. The pattern surrounding this film has fueled speculation for decades. If any film on this list deserves the title of genuinely cursed, this is the one, and the evidence isn't supernatural. It's nuclear. Howard Hughes produced this epic about Genghis Khan and inexplicably cast John Wayne in the lead role, filming in the Escalante Desert near St. George, Utah. That location sat just 137 miles downwind from the Nevada National Security Site, where 11 above-ground nuclear weapons tests had occurred in 1953 as part of Operation Upshot Knothole, just 1 year before cameras started rolling. 2 detonations codenamed Simon and Harry caused massive radiation fallout that drifted directly over the filming location. Temperatures reached 120 degrees Fahrenheit while the cast and crew spent weeks constantly exposed to dust and dirt, and that's when Hughes made the decision that would prove catastrophic. 60 tons of contaminated dirt were shipped back to Hollywood for studio reshoots. A 1980 People magazine article laid out the numbers. Of the 220 cast and crew members, 91 developed cancer over the following 30 years, and 46 lost their lives to the disease. Dr. Robert Pendleton, a biologist at the University of Utah, put it bluntly, "With these numbers, this case could qualify as an epidemic. In a group this size, you'd expect only 30-some cancers to develop." John Wayne, Susan Hayward, director Dick Powell, Agnes Moorehead, and Pedro Armendariz all numbered among those affected. Moorehead was a non-smoker and health fanatic, and when she passed from cancer in 1974, her mother blamed the film directly. Guilt consumed Hughes so completely that he spent $12 million buying every existing print and kept it out of circulation until his final days. He reportedly watched it over and over in his last years. Alfred Hitchcock's nature horror classic terrified audiences across the country, but the real horror played out behind the camera in ways that still disturb people who hear about it. Tippi Hedren was making her film debut, and she'd been repeatedly assured that the famous attic attack scene would involve mechanical birds. The day of filming brought different news when assistant director James H. Brown told her the mechanical birds weren't working, which meant they would use live ones instead. 5 days of live ravens, doves, and pigeons being hurled at Hedren followed. Her own description of the experience was brutal and ugly and relentless. By the final day, she hovered on the verge of collapse, and when one bird pecked dangerously close to her eye, she declared she was done. Hitchcock called cut, and the entire crew simply left her alone on the vast soundstage, unable to move and sobbing from exhaustion. The day before this grueling shoot, Hedren claims Hitchcock threw himself on top of her in his limousine outside her hotel and tried to kiss her, and she says she screamed, pushed him off, and jumped out of the car. During the phone booth attack scene filmed the following day, a pane of glass shattered on her and cut her face, and speculation has swirled that this wasn't accidental. Hedren has described Hitchcock's behavior as an obsession, claiming he drove past her house, had her followed, and had her handwriting analyzed. When she continued rejecting his advances, he kept her under contract but denied her significant roles, effectively blocking her career. The 2012 HBO film The Girl dramatized these disturbing events. This wasn't so much a cursed production as a catastrophic one, but the scale of disaster that unfolded remains legendary in Hollywood history. Elizabeth Taylor signed on for a record-setting $1 million, and production began at Pinewood Studios in London in September 1960 without a completed script. Cold English weather proved disastrous when Taylor collapsed with severe pneumonia and underwent an emergency tracheotomy, prompting news agencies to erroneously report she had passed. $7 million spent, and the studio had only 10.5 minutes of usable footage. Director Ruben Mamoulian resigned while sets were dismantled at a cost of $600,000. Production relocated to Rome, where Joseph L. Mankiewicz took over and declared the existing script unreadable and unshootable. Taylor and Richard Burton began an affair that made worldwide headlines since both were married to other people. The Vatican denounced Taylor, threats against her life reportedly surfaced, and her husband Eddie Fisher faced public humiliation. Mankiewicz wrote the script while shooting, sometimes writing all night and filming all day with almost no sleep, and the scale of sets caused an Italian material shortage. Female extras went on strike demanding protection from male extras in an incident dubbed the Revolt of the Slave Girls. $31 million was the final production cost, equivalent to roughly $275 million today. 20th Century Fox shut down completely for 6 months and sold off a huge portion of its backlot, which became Century City, the highest-grossing film of 1963, and yet years passed before initial costs were recouped. Roman Polanski's psychological horror masterpiece has been surrounded by tragedy since its release, with coincidences so eerie they seem scripted. Producer William Castle received constant threatening mail about the movie and ended up hospitalized with severe gallstones requiring surgery. Later, he became convinced the film was genuinely cursed. The story of Rosemary's Baby was happening in real life, he recalled. Witches, all of them, were casting their spell, and I was becoming one of the principal players. Polish composer Krzysztof Komeda created the haunting score, including the unforgettable lullaby theme, and in December 1968, just months after the film's release, he fell off a rocky escarpment at a party in Beverly Hills. A 4-month coma followed, and he never recovered, passing in April 1969 at 37. Here's what makes this eeriest of all. In Ira Levin's novel, Rosemary's friend Hutch is put into a coma by the witches and eventually perishes, mirroring Komeda's fate. Exterior shots were filmed at the Dakota, the famous Gothic apartment building on Manhattan's Upper West Side, where producer Robert Evans recalled feeling a distinctly eerie atmosphere. John Lennon would later live at the Dakota and was tragically taken outside that same building on December 8, 1980. Actor Sidney Blackmer reportedly warned on set, "No good will come of all this Hail Satan business." Given what followed, his words seem prophetic. No film in history has generated more stories of on-set chaos than this one, and the documented incidents read like something from the movie itself. William Friedkin's production was scheduled for 85 days but stretched past 200, while the budget ballooned from $5 million to over $12 million. Early in production, a fire broke out at 2:30 a.m. on a Sunday morning at the New York studio after a bird flew into a circuit breaker. The entire McNeil house set was destroyed, except for Regan's bedroom where the exorcism scenes were to be filmed, which remained eerily untouched. 6 weeks of shutdown followed. Injuries accumulated across the set at an alarming rate. Ellen Burstyn suffered a permanent back injury during the scene where possessed Regan throws her backward, and a harness pulled her too hard and fractured her coccyx. That scream you hear in that moment is real, captured pain, and she spent the rest of filming on crutches. Linda Blair fractured her lower back while convulsing in a harness and developed lifelong scoliosis. An electrician lost a toe while a carpenter chopped off his thumb. Burstyn later stated that 9 people passed during production, including an assistant cameraman's newborn baby, a night watchman, and the man who refrigerated the set. Actor Jack McGowan, who played Burke Dennings, passed just 1 week after filming his final scenes at age 54. Friedkin had a reputation for extreme methods, firing blanks to startle actors and keeping temperatures at -20 degrees to capture foggy breath. Even he seemed disturbed by what was happening on his set. A priest was eventually invited to bless the production. Nothing else happened after the blessing, Father Thomas Birmingham stated. The coincidences surrounding this film about the Antichrist are almost too theatrical to believe, yet every one of them is documented. Gregory Peck's plane was struck by lightning while flying to London for filming in October 1975, and just 3 days later, producer Mace Neufeld's plane took a lightning strike while crossing the Atlantic. Screenwriter David Seltzer took a separate flight to England, and his plane was struck by lightning too. Producer Harvey Bernhard narrowly missed being struck while filming in Rome. A charter plane originally scheduled for the film crew was rented to another group at the last minute, and that plane crashed after flying into a flock of birds, going through a fence, and striking a car carrying the pilot's family. A restaurant where Peck, Neufeld, and other producers planned to dine was destroyed by an IRA explosion just before their reservation, and the hotel where director Richard Donner had been staying was hit the day after filming. Donner himself was struck by a car during production. The most chilling incident involved John Richardson, the special effects designer who created the famous decapitation scene. Friday, August 13, 1976, brought a car crash in the Netherlands, and his assistant Liz Moore was taken in a manner eerily similar to the effect Richardson had designed. A nearby road sign allegedly read, "Omen, 66.6 kilometers," spelling out a word similar to the film's title and featuring that infamous number. Even the animals seemed affected. Rottweilers used as hellhounds attacked their trainers while baboons at a safari park went wild during filming. An animal trainer at that park was taken by a tiger the day after the crew finished shooting. Producer Harvey Bernhard's conclusion was simple: the movie was never meant to be. The Superman curse has become one of Hollywood's most enduring legends, touching multiple actors across decades in ways that seem almost impossible. Christopher Reeve made the role iconic across 4 films before May 27, 1995, changed everything. He was competing in an equestrian event when his horse stopped short of a jump, throwing Reeve forward with his hands tangled in the reins. The entire impact landed on his head, fracturing his first and second cervical vertebrae. Paralysis from the neck down followed, requiring a wheelchair and ventilator for the rest of his life. October 10, 2004, marked his passing at age 52. Dana, his wife, continued advocating for spinal cord research and was diagnosed with lung cancer in 2005, despite never having been a smoker. March 6, 2006, took her at just 44, less than 2 years after her husband. Margot Kidder played Lois Lane and survived a horrific car crash in 1990 that left her temporarily unable to walk. A severe breakdown followed in 1996, and she was found in a stranger's backyard in a deeply distressed state after living on the streets. Lee Quigley played the infant Superman in the 1978 film and passed in 1991 at only 14. Marlon Brando, who played Jor-El, passed in July 2004, just 3 months before Christopher Reeve, following years of family tragedy and reclusiveness. The curse became so well known that talent agents cited it as a reason for difficulty casting the role. 19 years separated the 4th film from the next theatrical reboot. Francis Ford Coppola's Vietnam epic is legendary for its troubled production, a shoot so chaotic it nearly destroyed everyone involved. 14 weeks was the scheduled production time, but 238 days passed before cameras stopped rolling. The original $12 million budget ballooned past $30 million, much of it coming from Coppola's personal funds after he mortgaged his home and winery. 2 months into filming, Typhoon Olga struck the Philippines and destroyed most of the expensive sets, shutting production down for 8 weeks while crew members remained stranded in hotels. $2 million in additional damage piled onto the budget. Harvey Keitel was cast as Captain Willard, but was deemed miscast after 1 week and replaced by Martin Sheen, and that's when things got truly dangerous. March 5, 1977, brought a near-fatal cardiac episode for Sheen, then only 36, in his hotel room. He struggled for a quarter of a mile to reach help and was so terrified production would be shut down that he claimed it was heat stroke. 3 weeks of hospitalization followed. Marlon Brando arrived weighing nearly 300 pounds, having read neither the script nor Joseph Conrad's source novel, and having learned none of his lines. Coppola shut down production for a week just to read the material with him, and because Brando and Dennis Hopper despised each other, their scenes had to be filmed separately. Coppola himself suffered seizures and had a breakdown, allegedly threatening to end things himself 3 times. His wife Eleanor documented everything in footage that became the documentary Hearts of Darkness. The 1979 Cannes Film Festival brought Coppola's famous summation, "We were in the jungle, there were too many of us, we had access to too much money, too much equipment, and little by little we went insane." 4 cast members passed within 6 years of this film's release, cementing its reputation as one of Hollywood's most cursed productions. Dominique Dunne played the eldest daughter Dana, and she was just 22 when tragedy struck on October 30th, 1982, only 5 months after the film's release. Her ex-boyfriend attacked her outside her home, and she was placed on life support for 5 days but never regained consciousness. Heather O'Rourke delivered the iconic line, "They're here," and passed at just 12 years old on February 1st, 1988. A 1987 misdiagnosis of Crohn's disease masked the actual cause, intestinal stenosis, a congenital abnormality that caused septic shock. Director Gary Sherman had to reshoot scenes for Poltergeist III using a double. Julian Beck played Cain in the sequel and passed from stomach cancer on September 14, 1985, before the film was even released. Will Sampson, who played Taylor in that same sequel, passed on June 3, 1987, from complications following a transplant. Rumors persist that real human skeletons were used as props in the swimming pool scene, apparently a common practice since real skeletons cost less than manufactured ones. Oliver Robbins, who played son Robbie and survived, has offered a measured perspective. "I don't think there's a curse because those tragedies can be explained. They were going to happen whether the actors were in the movie or not." He acknowledges the legend keeps drawing new viewers to the film. Nuclear fallout in the Utah desert, lightning strikes over the Atlantic, on-set fires, and tragic losses that followed casts for decades all connect these 11 films through an undeniable darkness extending beyond their scripts. Whether supernatural curses seem plausible to you or you simply see a pattern of tragic coincidences, the documented incidents surrounding these productions remain extraordinary. Real people suffered real injuries while real lives were lost far too soon, and careers were derailed by circumstances that seemed impossibly cruel. What makes all of this most unsettling is how many incidents mirror the film's own themes. The composer of Rosemary's Baby fell into a coma like a character in the story. The special effects designer of the Omen's decapitation scene lost his assistant in a similar manner. The star of Superman became paralyzed while playing an invincible hero. Hollywood's magic has always come at a cost, and sometimes the most terrifying stories unfold when the cameras stop rolling. The next time you revisit one of these classics, you might find yourself watching with new eyes, wondering what forces were at work behind the scenes and whether some films truly are touched by something we cannot explain.